Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 30. In this episode, I will be reviewing UFC 284 that took place in Perth, Australia. What an atmosphere those Australian fans created. It felt epic, and it just felt really alive in that stadium for all of those fights. And also I will be previewing UFC Fight Night Andrade versus Blanchfield. Obviously a big change in that main event. Can't wait to get to it. Ring that bell. All right, let's get to UFC 284. As I said, it took place in Perth, Australia. Let's get to some of the fights that I want to review. The first fight of the night was a lightweight bout, and it was Zubria Tukhunov taking on Elvis Brenner. I apologize if I butchered his name, but Tukhunov definitely won this fight. I'm not sure how Brenner came away with the win in this fight. A lot of people on MMA Twitter shared the same thoughts as I did on this fight. Tukhunov definitely deserved to get this win. Not sure what the judges were looking at in this one. Moving on, we had a featherweight bout. We had Shane Young taking on Blake Bilder, and Blake Bilder gets the decision victory. In the next fight, we had a women's strawweight bout. We had Luma Lukbumi taking on Ellis Reed, and Luma Lukbumi gets the second round submission. Usually Lukbumi is a stand-up specialist, but she showed another part of her game. So, it's great to see that she is improving, and I believe that was her first career submission. Moving on, we had the featherweight bout. We had Jack Jenkins taking on Don Shainis, and Jack Jenkins gets the decision victory. Jenkins, we all knew that he had very powerful and devastating leg kicks coming into this fight, and he used them on Shainis and really immobilized Shainis in this fight. So big shout out to Jenkins for getting the victory in his UFC debut. Now moving on to the prelim card. We had a lightweight bout. We had Jamie Malarkey taking on Francisco Prado, and Jamie Malarkey gets the decision victory. Moving on in a flyweight bout, we had Shannon Ross taking on Clayton Rodriguez, and Rodriguez gets the finish in under a minute, 59 seconds in the first round. Big statement win for Rodriguez in that one. We had a featherweight bout next. We had Joshua Caballo taking on Melkis Baghindasurin. I probably butchered his last name. I do apologize. But Joshua Caballo gets the submission victory in the second round. Moving on, we had a light heavyweight bout. We had Tyson Pedro taking on Modestas Bukauskas, and Bukauskas gets the unanimous decision victory. Bukauskas was, if you do remember, he was the guy that got his knee blown out by Khalil Rountree's vicious kick. And he went to Cage Warriors, won a couple fights, came back from the injury and, came back from being released from the UFC and, big win right here for him. Always happy to hear when athletes make, a comeback to the UFC. It's so hard when athletes, come to the UFC, but they get released, after underperforming or whatnot, bad luck, things like that. It's always great to see them get a second chance in the UFC. Now let's move on to the main card. Kicking off the main card, we had a light heavyweight bout. We had Jimmy Crute taking on Alonzo Menafield, and unfortunately this fight ends in a majority draw. The two fighters did say that they wanted to run the fight back. So we'll see if that does come to fruition. Moving on, we had a heavyweight bout. We had Justin Tafa taking on Parker Porter, and Justin Tafa First round, 1 minute and 6 seconds in, freezes Parker Porter. He literally froze him. Parker Porter was, moving around the octagon pretty, he was, really trying to get his range. He was moving in and out of the pocket. And, he went in and Tafa just gave him a hook to the chin. And Parker Porter was literally frozen on the ground. And Justin Tafa gets the walk-off KO. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout. We had Jack Della Molina taking on Randy Brown. And Jack Della Molina gets the submission victory after badly rocking Randy Brown. JDM just, he started the fight with crisp boxing, and to finish it, getting the submission victory over Randy Brown, who is a very good grappler in his own right. Very impressive by JDM. I mean, I am so on the hype train for JDM. This guy looks like he is the real deal. I cannot wait to see what he does, in the future in this welterweight division. Moving on, in the co-main event, we had a featherweight bout for the featherweight interim title. We had a Yair Rodriguez taking on Josh Emmett. And Yair Rodriguez gets the second round submission. He caught Emmett in a triangle choke, I believe. And, just a great performance by Yair Rodriguez. He took some good punches by Emmett. Obviously, Emmett has power, but Yair Rodriguez just, he really found his range in this fight. And, he was just very elusive. Obviously he got caught with a couple good punches, but, it was mostly his kicks and his range was really what made a difference in this fight. Moving on, we had the main event of the evening. We had the lightweight champ Islam Makhachev taking on the featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski. Obviously, Volkanovski was going for double champ status, so he moved up to lightweight. And what a fight this was. Two of the best in the world just going at it. And Volkanovski, I said he was going to surprise a lot of people, and he did, with just being able to grapple with Makhachev, and he really pushed Makhachev to his breaking point. But at the end of the day, Islam Makhachev gets the unanimous decision victory over Alexander Volkanovski. I had Islam Makhachev winning this fight as well. I had Islam Makhachev getting rounds 1 and 2, and then I had Volkanovski getting round 3. I had round 4 going to Makhachev, and of course I had round 5 going to Volkanovski. So, a very close fight. It could have gone Volk's way as well. But the judges, I looked at their scorecards. I had the same scorecard as them. So I'm going to have to agree with that decision. I just think Makhachev was able to hold off Volkanovski in the rounds that he won just, slightly. This is a very, very close fight. And I wouldn't have been mad if it went to Volkanovski. Anybody, there's a couple rounds that were pretty close, but I think the judges got it right. I think Islam Makhachev is the the rightful winner by decision. But Volkanovski, don't sleep on his grappling. He was able to get up, a couple times when Makhachev had him down, and people didn't think that he was going to be able to do that. But like I said, he's going to surprise people. He just did not get the victory. Now, let's move on to UFC Fight Night, Andrade and Blanchfield. All right, starting with the prelims, let's go over a couple of fights. In the first fight of the night, we got a flyweight bout. We got Clayton Carpenter making his UFC debut. He earned a contract on the Contender Series, so interested to see how he does in his debut. Moving on, we got a welterweight bout. We got AJ Fletcher, another Contender Series guy, fighting on this card. Interested to see if he wins. We have a light heavyweight bout. We got Ovens St. Prude taking on Philip Lins. And OSP he's been fighting since the Strikeforce days. He's an exciting fighter. His last fight was a very boring fight against Mauricio Shogun Rua, and St. Prude won that by split decision. So I'm definitely hoping for a much more exciting fight. OSP usually puts on pretty, good fights. So let's see if he gets another Von Prue choke. Would not be surprised. He is the master of that submission. Moving on, we got a featherweight bout. We got Jamal Emmers taking on Kuchin Askabavov. I believe that's how you say his last name. I apologize if I butchered it, but this guy is 23-0, so he's undefeated. That's a very impressive record. Very excited to see how he does against Emmers. And next up, we have a women's bantamweight bout. We got Lena Landsberg taking on Maria Bruno Silva. And in the main card, kicking that off, we got a lightweight bout. We have Jim Miller taking on Alexander Hernandez, who took this fight on short notice. Hernandez's last fight was a featherweight bout. So obviously he is now back up at lightweight. Jim Miller, he's been around forever. He's definitely a legend of the sport. So always down to watch Jim Miller scrap with somebody. Moving on, we got a light heavyweight bout. We got William Knight taking on Morcine Prachigo. I believe that's how you say his last name. The next fight is a heavyweight fight. We got Josh Parisian taking on Jamal Pogues. Jamal Pogues is another Contender Series guy. He got his contract off of that show. So excited to see how he does in his UFC debut. Next up, we have the co-main event of the evening, a light heavyweight bout. We got Jordan Wright taking on Zach Pauga. And if you do remember, Zach Pauga was an Ultimate Fighter heavyweight finalist, but he lost to Muhammad Usman. He was doing really well in that fight until he got stopped. This fight's interesting. Pauga moving down to light heavyweight. Jordan Wright is moving up from middleweight to light heavyweight. Jordan Wright is, he's either gonna knock someone out or he is gonna get knocked out. I would love to see some head movement from Jordan Wright. He just doesn't seem to get his head off of that center line, and that's usually where things start to go downhill. Guys, I've seen Jordan Wright get off to really good starts, and then just all of a sudden he's getting knocked out. It's just because guys, they find his head, they find his chin really easily. He just doesn't really move his head off of that center line, and I just think that's how he loses a lot of his fights. He's been finished pretty brutally, so let's see if moving up a weight class helps him take a little bit more damage. Maybe he can take punches a little bit well, but he's got to move his head off of that center line. And Zach Pauga, he's moving down, as I said, so interested to see how he looks, how he moves, if his speed is going to be quicker. So this is an interesting fight for the co-main event. Now, moving on to the main event, we got a women's flyweight bout. We got Jessica Andrade taking on Erin Blanchfield. This fight was supposed to be Talia Santos versus Erin Blanchfield, but Talia Santos's cornermen got their visas denied multiple times. I believe that is why she is not fighting this weekend. So, of course, Jessica Andrade, the badass she is, she takes this fight on like a week's notice. I'm a huge fan of Jessica Andrade. She is just a beast. But, Erin Blanchfield, as I have said, I've been high on her for a pretty long time now. Before that Molly McCann fight, I said that Erin Blanchfield was going to dominate. And, that's exactly what she did. And she brushed her shoulders off right after it. I love that swagger from her. Jessica Andrade, the former champion in the UFC. She's just... she's an animal, but, I'm still going to take Erin Blanchfield in this fight. I've been super high on Blanchfield. I think her grappling is just next level. And, what she has to look out for is really just she can't get in a strength battle with Andrade. Andrade is so strong. And even if you do, kind of try to counteract her power with your power, it seems like that's kind of an easy way to get tired. So it's going to be interesting to see how Blanchfield comes at Andrade. Obviously, I feel like Blanchfield is going to use her grappling. But again, Andrade, do not counter out. I would not be surprised if she won this fight, but Erin Blanchfield, she's the future, I believe. So I'm riding with Erin Blanchfield to win this fight. And for those of you who do not know, Kai Kamaka has a fight booked. Bellator 295 in his home of Hawaii. Bellator is putting on a 2-night event, Friday and Saturday. I was able to catch up with Kai Kamaka III, and here is a portion of our interview. You can find the full interview on YouTube at the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo's YouTube page. I've noticed, and I'm sure other people have noticed, it seems like you're in the best shape of your career. Just kind of talk about what can you attribute that to?
There's a lot of things. Just growing as a human being, just maturing. You the older you get, the less corners you want to cut, just because the window gets shorter. But I don't know. I just every day goes by. I love this more. I just enjoy. And there's a lot of parts. Just maturing. My family, they allow me to just focus on fighting, and that's all. That's all I do. And then the people I have around me that that help me, the coaches that I have that help me in that facet of making sure my body's in the right shape, and mentally I'm mentally well to keep improving.
And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. To stay in touch with the podcast, the Twitter is the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. The YouTube is the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. And you can also find the podcast on Instagram at the KO_podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen. Have a safe and blessed rest of your day. Bye-bye.